That's right, you might get wet. Warning, you might laugh so hard your cheeks will sweat. With Ben and Skin, homegrown homeboys from Richardson, they're gonna soak ya. Woo! Rubber dub dub, hit the Super Soaker.
Here are your hosts for the Super Soaker, Ben and Skin.
Ooh, soaked.
Ah, yes, indeed. Good Thursday morning, everybody. It is Ben and Skin, and it is time for the Super Soaker. How you doing this morning, Ben? Do you feel properly soaked?
I'm not soaked yet, but I am optimistic that I will get soaked. I'm willing to.
Okay, well, I'll put in a lot of work to make sure you're in the space you need to be in. By the way, I love our countdown song that is leading up to the intro song. And there's a lot of detail in there about different kinds of coffee. And so I've talked about this. I think this is a left-handed mug, Papa Bear, that I have to drink right-handed. But I'm currently drinking Texas pecan taste. What's your current flavor profile?
I'm in Java John's mode, dude. It's what I think I ordered enough for the rest of my life. And I have like a whole separate coffee closet, and it's just my go-to. I don't remember which one it is, but if I drink Starbucks or anything else, I'm like, this is not as good as Java John. So, and this is not a paid endorsement, just being real. That's what I'm sipping on.
It's just what he likes, people. Is the and then you put some sort of creamer in there, you soak it. Is it like a flavored, like a, I don't know, white chocolate, or is it just like creamer?
No, it's coffee flavored coffee. And I do trick it up though. I do have like sugar-free sweetener, and I put lots of half and half in it. And every once in a while I put a little cinnamon powder in it just for a little flair.
No, that's legit, bro.
But dude, you need to develop your left. You can't, you can't just be a right-handed guy only. I mean, okay, there you go. So you can.
All right, were you criticizing me? I didn't hear.
Uh-oh.
No, that it's habitual. That is like, I think one of the most underrated skills in the world is to be completely ambidextrous. God. And what I wonder about is if you are one of those people, does your brain have a moment where it's arguing with itself about which side to reach for something, or, the things that we just do with you and I are both right-handed. So the things that we instinctively do with our right hand, if you're ambidextrous, is there just like a moment before the synapse fires where the brain is arguing with itself about which hand to grab?
It's shocking to me, like watching NBA players and their ability to do all of the exact same things with either hand. Yeah. Like that runner Kyrie hit to, over what's his name? Who did he hit that over?
It was over Jokic.
Yeah, it was over Jokic.
Yeah.
And so over a huge defender with his offhand, obviously Kyrie is one of the most skilled humans on the planet, but I can't do that. I wish I could go back in time, because there's so much I would do differently, but I was always worried about the wrong shit. Like, I love basketball. I still play basketball twice a week. Not well, but I still don't have a left hand. And every once in a while when I'm playing, some of my friends are coaches, and so I'm like, you know what? I'm supposed to shoot with my left hand here. I'm going to go ahead and try, and I'll like blow a layup, and I'm like, God, if I could go back in time, I would do things so differently, but I would have cared less about the bullshit I cared about, and I would have like practiced the left hand. I would have played a lot of golf. I would have actually tried to learn in school and remember things as opposed to just get by on tests. I would have learned to speak Spanish. I would have, I don't know. I just always cared about the wrong shit.
Yeah, no, I feel you, man. I feel you. And, bringing up basketball and bringing up the Mavs and Kyrie, I want to throw this out there. This is me. This is my hair when I wake up. I haven't showered today, and I don't know if you can tell what's going on. I'm not wearing a shirt under.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that hair, dude. Look at that. Sexy, man.
You want some of that?
Yeah, let me get in there. Look at that thing. Spit on that thing.
Dude, would you hawk two of my chest hair? That would be woo. But it is good that we are. You look like you didn't wake up like that. You've showered and you look good right now.
I'm showered. We got a meeting as soon as we finish this, so I'm ready for that meeting. And my whole thing, appearance wise, always comes down to on these things is like what's the collar situation?
Yeah, this one's wild because it's like a pullover thing.
This is so my weight fluctuates. This is kind of one of my fat guy shirts, and so the collar's too big, and so I'm like, tempted to just go straight buttoned up, and it looks. But look how big that is. Look at that.
No. I want to see. I want to see some chest.
To this whole neck
Unbutton
hole.
it. Unbutton it all the way and pull the edges of your collar all the way out.
I don't like exposing a lot of neck meat.
I want to see some of your neck meat. Let me suck on some of your neck meat. Would that be weird?
I don't want that.
I want KT and Christina to watch me suck on your neck meat later today.
Dude,
at the station.
there's certain things that I don't understand how we haven't evolved as humans in the world. How come aliens haven't brought us better t-shirt technology? But why is it that we don't make t-shirts that have perfectly tight neck holes? Sometimes, you can see your clavicles and shoulder blades. You're like, why do you have a 4-foot neck hole on this damn t-shirt, you idiots?
A lot of it has to do though with the fact that our heads are just so much bigger than our necks, and it's how we take that t-shirt off and on. It's going to greatly impact your neck hole, and it's going to get stretched out over time.
Oh yeah, I'm not even talking about stretching them out. I'm talking about when they come, they're brand new, from the store, wherever you get them, and it's a massive neck hole that it's like, dude, why are you trying to show everyone all this neck meat? Why are you trying to show off my collarbones? Like, I don't need that. Like, what are we doing?
I wonder if that has to do with guys. Who's the guy that you got in that fight with, Ted Johnson? I wonder if those are just the linebacker from.
Oh my God!
I wonder if those are just shirts for guys that have necks like Ted Johnson, where the neck is actually bigger than the head.
Good God! That whole thing, encouraged to do the fake Ted Johnson to Ted Johnson, who's had so many concussions and taken so many roids, probably, maybe allegedly, but that, like, the idea, no, he loves it, do it. And so we're at the Super Bowl and I'm doing it, the difference between 3-4 to 4-3, and you don't know because you're not a football guy, and then you look over and he's staring at me like a tiger looking through a cage, like wanting to kill the zoo master. Like, he did not like it. He was not a fan of it.
No. He was not, and it was really funny that our old program director was forcing you to do it. Okay, I sidetracked this. I do want to talk Mavs, and we don't have to get too into it because you and I are not in Vegas, but I am wearing a Mav pullover. And about 10 minutes before we went on the air, Ben, we're on a text chain with some local media types, including our buddy Mark Stein, who is now at All City, and he is in Vegas. And he has a full sit-down interview in a hotel room with J. Kidd. And he was just kind of giving us, it's on the Twitter, and he was giving us a snippet of it. And apparently in this thing with Jason Kidd, he talks about the fact that J. Kidd went and spent time with your guy, Phil Jackson, to talk about offensive philosophy, specifically ways to utilize, people know it as the triangle offense. Some people call it the triple post offense. The old joke about it from people that didn't run it was that, oh yeah, I know what you do. You kind of pass the ball around and then you give the ball to Kobe or Michael and he'll bail you out at the end of the shot clock after all that fiddle fucking around. But it's an older offense. Tex Winter is kind of the guy that he was always on Phil Jackson's bench, and he's the mastermind behind it. But to have a triple post offense, you definitely need a good passing big. And so the fact that that's being discussed makes me think that they have a lot of confidence in the skill set, not just rebounding and blocking shots and being in the dunker spot or being the rim runner on a pick and roll, but face up shooting and passing from one Derek Lively II. If the triple post offense is being discussed, that's the first thing that popped into my mind. And so where I want to go with you is, what's your excitement level and or expectations about Derek Lively II, who's already been named as the starter for this year.
I think it's one of the biggest stories of the season. There's lots of great storylines that I'm fired up about, but his evolution, like we were seeing him, we kept seeing video footage of him draining 3-point shots at practice, and the form looked really good. And then for him to hit one in the NBA Finals and all that pressure, I was like, oh shit, is this going to be something he has in his game? And plus, when the Mavericks were, they would, and you could explain this better than I could, but it looked like they would welcome the double team. Like, okay, you're going to double Luka, or we're going to pull him out pretty far. So you have to now ruin your spacing on the court, and then we're going to get the ball to Derek Lively Jr. at the elbow or the top of the key, and now he's got the ability to attack the basket. If somebody converges on him, he can kick out, or he can make a pass from that point. He's basically the quarterback. They showed extreme confidence, and he was kind of the best guy they had for that, and they've tried different guys there. And so, he grew so much in his rookie year and just got better and better and better. And maybe he was the same, and it just, my expectations started expanding. But his development from year one to year two is one of the biggest storylines. Like, as Brett Favre once said, can he continue this?
Oh, it's a great question that's always been asked down the field. No. I have really high expectations. Sometimes a guy takes a minor step back in year two. That's not that uncommon, but for his situation, what's expected of him and who his teammates are, I fully expect him to really take a big step forward. The thing that's not being, and maybe other people are talking about it, but the thing I'm most curious about, and I during the summer I'd talked to somebody in the organization, and they were talking about, man, this is a huge, huge summer for PJ. And if you look at, all the discussion is, all right, if Klay Thompson starts, are we taking this huge step back defensively? Does that mean Najee Marshall starts? No, it's going to be Klay. And however, you just need a little more defense from your three best offensive players, right? In other words, if Luka and Kyrie don't have to carry as much of an offensive load because the structure will get easy shots for everybody. And that's the thing about Phil Jackson. That was his magic trick. Phil Jackson's magic trick was to get Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan to trust into the system, right? And so J Kidd already has I think Kyrie's an easy adjustment for him to do that because of all the places he's played, scenarios he's played. I think the tougher thing is to get Luka to trust into the system, right? And if they do that, it will allow them to expend more energy on the defensive end of the floor, which can, the offense with more being as good as it is combined with the defense, more energy there, it's going to make up for that gap. And then what that means is if you're trying to defend the Dallas Mavericks, the guy that nobody is paying attention to on the defensive end of the floor is PJ Washington. And so this is a huge opportunity for him to excel in massive ways. We spend so much time talking about spacing and it being easier on Kyrie and Luka. Dude, the world is about to open up in unbelievable ways for PJ Washington, and he's got to be able to take advantage of that in a number of different ways.
Man, that's exciting, dude. It's got my Mavs pants going crazy.
Woo!
And I actually wrote that down. So my fourth point here on the Mavericks was Derek Lively's development, and beneath that I put PJ Washington and confirmed his age, looked it up. He's only 26, and so
right.
We talk about how much better can Derek Lively the second be, how much better can PJ Washington be. But I want to make sure that I'm not going just zipping by this thing. And the Stein thing you mentioned, we're on that text message, and it was when we were already prepping to start this stream, and so I was looking at it going, wait, Phil Jackson in the triangle, and then hearing you say that right now, talking about Luka buying in, it made me think of the Bulls, and I'm like, okay, Luka, and this is a negative. People look at this negative. I don't look at this negatively, but a lot of times people try to compare the way that Luka plays to the way James Harden played with the Rockets, and even James Harden, like a week ago, was saying, "Hey, man, Luka just got to the finals playing the way I played."
Right.
Ball dominant, involved in everything, facilitating everything, ball always in his hands. I don't mean that as a criticism at all.
I'm with you.
Yeah, okay. But is what you're talking like? Is your read on this, or I may be too early to even answer this, but is your read on this that, hey man, they're legit gonna look at changing their offensive philosophy and incorporating more Phil Jackson triangle type stuff? So Luka is going to have to go through the same process that Jordan went through, learning to just trust the system and trust his teammates, and have it be less of the James Harden style, for lack of a better description, and be more of what Jordan did with the Bulls?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of that, Ben. I think it's a matter of augmenting what you do, because you don't want to take away the things that makes a guy special, but you just want to put him in a position to succeed. One of the things too, a byproduct of the triangle is it will get you, and it's a little bit different because people aren't running these things as much now, but it will get you corner threes on the strong side. It also, when you work through the triangle, what it does is it eventually reverses the ball to the weak side, and there's two-man action over there. And so they have multiple guys that can thrive in that two-man action scenario. So I think about some of the shots it can get for Clay. And then I also think about opportunities it might get in isolation scenarios on the weak side for a guy like Kyrie. And I think it's really a matter, Ben, of just adding things to what they already do. Like, you're not going to not take huge advantage of Luka's ability to read and react when the floor is spread and you have middle floor pick and roll stuff. You're always going to use that, because it's just, now that you've added added Clay, it makes it so much more difficult to defend Luka. But there's also these really great flash opportunities for a guy like one of the things that PJ used to do to the Mavericks when he was in Charlotte is flash to the post when the floor was spread and then punish a smaller player down low. And he'll have those opportunities when the floor is all spread out. I think the idea of what the triple post, how it can benefit the Mavericks, is just use it in spots to try to give the other team different looks and different things to think about, and also incorporate Clay in those ways, because the stuff the Golden State Warriors do, the Mavericks don't do. And I know that there's a hell of a lot of conversation about, well, are we going to be running Clay on all these weak side screens? And is there going to be all this, movement and action? The Mavericks don't incorporate a lot of that, or didn't have that previously. And so I think there's ways they're thinking about ways to incorporate Clay, but not get away from Luka and Kyrie. And what are those philosophical things? And sometimes you try to implement something and it doesn't work. The best example I can give you, Rick Carlisle's first training camp, he's trying to implement the Princeton offense. And then he goes, oh shit, I only have 2 guys on the team that know how to pass. So they spend like 3 weeks doing it, and then they scrap it. You talk about an offense that needs passing bigs. That's that offense. So sometimes you try to implement things and they don't work. I think with the triangle offense is a high acumen, high IQ offense. And so we know that they have several high IQ players. And again, to me, it's just a signal that there's a tremendous amount of trust in the growth that Derek Lively is going to have and what it'll bring to this team.
Love it. And again, kudos to the great Mark Stein, doing great work now over at All City, where our buddy Kavanaugh is, and much respect to those guys. I can't wait to go watch that. I'm looking forward to it. I guess the other biggest thing, there's tons of storylines, and we'll have time to talk lots of Mavs over the coming Super Soakers and whatnot. And we got a big Mavs content announcement that we'll be making here very soon.
Yeah. But
I'm interested in Najee. Is that how you pronounce it? Najee?
I believe so.
Okay. Because Najee Marshall, the Mavericks were their biggest priority was retaining Derek Jones Jr. He always guarded the best offensive player on the other team. Mm-hmm. And then to have that fall out of bed, he's going to switch agents. He ends up not coming back. It was their biggest priority. And then they were like, no, let's just go get Najee. And They did that before the Derek Jones Jr. thing was resolved. And so, but I was watching video highlights of Najee and going, man, this doesn't look like the same type of defensive player as Derek Jones Jr. Maybe seemed like a bigger guy guarding a good defensive player, but Derek Jones Jr. could, get down in his stance and guard anybody on the planet.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, how is this going to go? And so I'm interested in that. And the other thing is, when you add a player like Clay, I would imagine they had to make certain promises to him about starting and playing at key moments and what his role is going to be. I don't know what he is defensively. He's certainly not what he used to be defensively, but figuring out, okay, Luka and Kai are going to be in the game. They're going to start. They're going to be in the game together at the end. So is Clay also going to be in with them at the beginning and the end? And does that mean Najee can't be in those moments? And I know during the course of the game, they'll be able to work all that out and have different lineups, and they'll be effective, and they've got a lot of depth. And there's other guys like Dinwiddie who could help, or Quentin Grimes. I mean, there's other guys that are going to be in the mix in the rotation. But like, how do you have Clay, Luka, and Kai out there and still be really good defensively? And does it mean if those guys are out there that Najee can't be out there?
Yeah, I think that's the magic question, right? Is what do these rotations look like? And I do think, you want to have your go-to scenario, but I do think, some of it's going to be situational and matchup based. And again, the Klay Thompson thing is so interesting to me. There's several guys on this team that I'm like, man, they're going to have to make huge sacrifices to be a part of a championship team. I think Klay's probably willing to make that sacrifice. I mean, that kind of remains to be seen. I mean, he's going to want to be in the game at important times, but also sometimes you can reinvent yourself somewhere else in a place that you can't where you were raised or where you had your whole identity, because that's a different ask. And there's dynamics in the locker room and behind the scenes and all those things that can make it difficult for a person to accept roles. I mean, if you look at that 2011 Maverick team, I think the most amazing thing about it is everyone's willingness to accept a role. Think about a guy like Deshaun Stevenson that was like, yeah, you're not going to play. Oh shit, we need you to start in the playoffs. Can you do this? Sure. He never once that I was aware of, never once bitched about anything as a Dallas Maverick that I was aware of, right? Those are sacrifices. And so I think where it's really tricky is consistent minutes for Jaden Hardy. I think consistent minutes for Quentin Grimes. I've talked to a couple people that are like, Quentin Grimes is better than Josh Green, dude. And, sometimes, I probably saw Quentin Grimes. Now, last year was a wash, but I probably saw Quentin Grimes play, 7 or 8 times a year, right? Like the Mavericks play him twice. I, would tune into games. I do have the NBA package, but I watch a lot of teams. So I'm also not one of those guys that the next day goes back and watches games I missed. So if I were to tell you, in the past, I'd be like, yeah, I like Quentin Grimes, but I had studied Quentin Grimes. There's several people that tell me, dude, he's better than Josh Green. You brought up Najee Marshall. He's a better basketball player than Derrick Jones Jr. by all accounts. He's also mentality-wise, he's kind of the Ruben Patterson type, right? Like aggressive dog dude. But the Mavericks do not have anybody on their team anymore like Derrick Jones Jr. 1, he could jump out of the gym. 2, he was very long. And so it gives the ability for him to defend smaller players because he can make up for it with length. And so they don't have that guy. And so when it comes time to, all right, we got to cover, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander in a playoff series, there's going to be some combination of Najee Marshall at times and Quentin Grimes at times. But to your original point, at the end of the game, who's covering him? Is it Kyrie? Is Kyrie going to have to sell out and cover Shea? Is Clay capable of doing that at this point in his career? Or is it Klay Thompson on the bench in favor of a defensive player? Those are all the amazing questions and things that have to be worked out. And Jay Kidd's the guy that has to work that out.
Dude, how exciting is it? It was such a young team that just went to the finals, and we have arguably the best player on the planet. And we're about to go on another great adventure. So we'll have tons of Mavs to discuss on these Super Soakers. Again, another big Mavs announcement with regard to the Ben and Skin show and the Dallas Mavericks and our content that we'll have for you here soon. But as you know, we're Mavs crazy and super stoked about this season.
I think we should make an executive decision and we treat the decluttering our life a lot like we treat Matt Damon on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, but I think it might be time to do a little news. Are you down for that?
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Strip Mall Steve's News Bender.
It's weird and wild. Let's see what's coming down the wire in the News Bender with pedestrian news fella, Strip Mall Steve Shackelford.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are we? Wonderful.
Look at that studio, Ben. It looks great in there.
Look how he's ready to bring the news. He doesn't have time for our bullshit. He said, "How are we doing? Wonderful." Before we could even respond, let's get out of the way. Bring the news.
I'm not supposed to ask how you're doing, so that was my fault. All right.
No.
Okay.
I'm okay with MAGA Strip Mall Steve in his red tie coming and bringing the news in a very serious manner.
I played both sides. I wore blue on Tuesday, all right? I was very intentional. I was like, I got to go red on Thursday here. Thursdays are the red. That way I remember what day it is, too. So if I'm wearing red, you know it's a Thursday.
All
right. A fake doctor has been busted for performing illegal penis enlargement surgeries for 20 years. Apparently, his scheme was foiled when a badly infected customer complained to cops that he'd gotten the shaft from his salami surgeon, and he'd been left with a terrible infection. Apparently, the cops then went and did an undercover sting operation and discovered this man only had a 9th grade education. He told clients the cost for the enlargement surgery was $615. He has been charged with working without a license.
Ben, that is the surgeon that I saw on Monday.
Did you pay $600? Yeah. So he's got a 9th grade education, which I think back to when I was a kid and the dumb shit I believed when I was so young. Like at one point, it wasn't quite 9th grade, but I think it was like 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. I had an Evel Knievel bike, and me and my friends were like, "Hey, dude, I think we could take the engine off that lawnmower, attach it to this bicycle, and turn it into a motorcycle." We were convinced we could do it. And it seems like 9th grade is about the age where you're very aware of your penis. You're like, you know what? This sounds plausible. I think we could do this. So it's pretty fascinating that this fake doctor had a 9th grade education and was spitting out 9th grade medical shit.
That's a good assessment. I don't remember which comedian I'm stealing this from, but he was talking about in the back of the magazines, the cream that you could rub on your dong to make it bigger. And he was like, how come your hands don't get bigger? I don't understand. If you're using the cream, wouldn't your hands get bigger as well? And this also, what you just mentioned, sounds very similar to the things that Kip and Napoleon Dynamite and Uncle Rico believe.
Yes.
Which, by the way, can we get them on the Soaker? I would love to get all three of those guys on the Soaker one Tuesday or Thursday.
Yes.
Steve?
In terms of how effective the operation was, I did see that comment there. Apparently, this had been going on for 20 years. So the guy would just inject a silicone filler, and I think it worked pretty well for the $600, and that is a heck of a deal.
Look at that guy's office.
Looks great, doesn't it?
I think the picture is fascinating because there's clearly a rod that is standing straight up.
That's intentional.
Yeah, it's definitely intentional on his desk, but look at his facial expression. He's like, yep, that's mine. Can you believe it?
Okay, I want you guys to get a look. If you don't mind, Jason, do a close-up on me or make me full screen. I want you guys to look at the size of my ears. All right? Now, pull that guy back up that we were just looking at. If I live that long, that guy is going to have I'm going to have the same ears as that dude.
Yes.
My ear is going to look like that, and I'm going to be telling people I can make their dong bigger if they give me $600.
All right. I want to ask about this comment here from Tommy G. $615 for anything would make me question things. Is that a suspicious amount? I mean, because it's not $1,000. It does the $15 part. It kind of is a suspicious number. Would you be skeptical of anything that's $615?
I get it is a weird number, but it's also such a weird number that it sounds legit. Like I feel the opposite of, hey man, 615 is suspicious. It's like on that scam stuff, they try to get you at a decent amount, but not an amount that just shocks you.
Right.
And so I think that is.
Office
I think we have
guys.
a comment from Jason.
Yeah, office fees, guys. You gotta process that stuff. Gotta pay for that injection.
Yeah, man. I think we should, as a show situation, let's Let's all explore it. Is that
Yeah.
guy still practicing, or is he busted? Is that the story?
Unfortunately, he was charged with working as a doctor without a license. I don't have an update on if he's been released on bail or if he's still advertising his services.
All right.
All right, in other news, let's see here. A man who felt ripped off when he hired 2 escorts for 10 grand contacted his bank to try to get the money back. Says he was scammed. So apparently he bought 3 hours of services through a website for 2 women. Cost about $10,000, but he says he was disappointed by the service, and those women are uncontactable, so he can't get in touch with them. So he just went to the bank. The bank told him to file a civil case. He then went to financial regulators in the UK, who told him there's nothing they can do. He was awarded $0.
All right. There's a lot to talk about here, but I think we need to start with the picture. If you can pull that back up, the chick on the left, she kind of looks like she's wearing a diaper.
It kind of looks like she's letting one rip. That's like the golden corral of sexual opportunities. That's not appealing.
10 grand.
And that's
10 grand.
I mean, that is way overpriced. I mean, to get back into that $615 range.
Yep.
That's even overpriced, I think.
So you'd be in on the one on the left at $615?
No.
Is that what I'm taking out of this?
I'm just like, that seems way too expensive for that. That does not look like Wagyu.
I mean, let's compare those 2 gals. So I think they're conceivably wearing the same thing, just wearing it way differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the one on the right, there's something that she's pulled up, and the other one, she had to use it to support her belly.
Yeah.
Hey, look at look at the car. It is not slowing down for them.
What, Ben? You're an expert. Is that a Continental? What is that?
I didn't know where you were going with that. I appreciate that.
Ben, you're an expert on a gal in a diaper. What? How old is she?
That looks like a 1991 BMW 528i.
Yep.
Nailed it. All right, in other prostitute news, a high school football coach in Laredo, Texas has been arrested after he called the police to report a prostitute had stolen $100 from him. So he called the police, tells the police, hey, this prostitute stole $100 from me. After speaking with the gentleman, they determined, well, it's because you were trying to solicit sex from her. So they just arrested the guy instead. But yeah, she just grabbed the $100 and ran away.
If that's the actual gal, she ain't running away from anything.
Oh, man.
This might be a stock photo for the story. I don't.
Okay. This is what I always wondered about these stock
Brilliant
photos.
crime.
Yeah.
There's no one you can report it to. If you just show up with $100 and say, show me the money, and you just grab it and run, perfect crime.
Right.
I know where you're going here, Ben. I want to hear your thoughts.
The thing about these stock photos, like you see it like on local news, you're like, some of the businesses on Harry Hines are reporting an uptick in prostitution, and they, and you got the camera guy out there just grabbing what he thinks are prostitutes.
Uh-huh.
But what if they're not? Like, what if this lady is not a prostitute? She is just thinks this is a good style choice, and she's like waiting to pick her kids up from school, and now she's shamed here in the news bender because she's an apparent prostitute. That's a sizable leap. If
you want to go see a gal right now that looks exactly like that, hit up the fair. Like, you can just walk up and down the Midway, and there's 5 or 6 gals that are looking just like that, and they're not necessarily trying to get you to pay them for sex.
I don't understand, like, like, who is this appealing to? Maybe the person who's been confined to a prison cell for like 30 years, but who is the person who's like looks at that and is like, yes, one day she will be mine for 20 minutes?
I think someone that is into high fashion. If you want a stylish gal that looks like she just stepped off the runway with her wares.
Yeah.
I think that's what you want.
All right, gentlemen.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry, Steve. No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I would just like you to say hello real quick to the poop copter. So a man has invented the first aerial-bound poop removal system. Apparently, this is fully self-guided, and what happens here is the drone performs a precision landing on top of some poop, and then it just rotates 30 degrees to pick it up, and then after the log is secured, it either flies the poop to a designated drop-off location or goes high up, spins around in midair, and that way the payload can be dumped and dispersed randomly.
Oh my God. If I lived next door to Skin, I would pay any amount of money for this. I would pay 10 grand for this, and I would have it pick up the turds and then take them right next door and just drop them off in his yard. And we'd do it at like 4 a.m. It would be programmed to just do it all at 4 a.m., just SEAL Team 6 style, just drop all those dog turds in his yard.
This seems like the most dangerous product of all time. And no matter what, I do not want the poop copter to end up in the hands of the Dave Matthews camp, because we know that they simply cannot handle that responsibility. There will be poop going everywhere. So the idea is that that's for picking up after dogs, I'm assuming, or humans that take poops out in parks.
I would imagine both, actually. Now, I didn't think about it for commercial city use, but that's a good idea. I think right now it's just marketed to residential customers, but good thinking there, Skin.
Dude, I had that neighbor, who used to let his giant dog take shits in my yard, and I caught him, confronted him, and he yelled at his dog in front of me. But if I had that, I could just take all of those dumps and put them in his hot tub. Just program the drone to fly over his hot tub and drop every one of my dog's logs or his dog's logs or my personal logs in his hot tub.
You used to take a lot of dumps in your yard, right?
Yeah,
Ben?
yeah, of course.
Okay, if you guys really want to know the impact of Steve Shackelford, I think we should read this text that came in at 10:38 from Aaron D. My gosh, guys, what are these topics? We've gone from dicks to prostitutes to literally poop.
Look, I want to, if I could, Steve, defend you here.
Please.
I have a problem with this notion, but go ahead, Ben.
Steve doesn't make the news. He reports the news. He's an award-winning reporter. These are the most important stories on earth, and he is covering them because he's the only reporter/news anchor that has the balls and courage to do it.
CNBC leads with these most nights. It's just you guys aren't watching it. That's the thing. Nobody watches at 5 p.m. CNBC, but this is the lead story most of the nights.
That's the spin from fake journalist Steve Shackelford, who is basically a subscriber to the New York Post. I mean, let's be honest here.
Daily Mail.
Sordid tales that you're reporting, sir.
All right, let's move on to one last one from Yahoo News here.
Okay.
All right, Corey Feldman. So apparently he's been going through some kind of a divorce, and so I saw a story about Corey Feldman's divorce, and within there was a text message. And what jumped out to me is that Corey Feldman's touring band asked for all their money up front before going out on tour with them. And I think that's a really strong thing. So, again, this all stems from a divorce where his wife needed some medical expenses covered. But the text he sent said, hey, send me a bill. Let me know what your medical expenses are. But unfortunately, this is the worst timing ever. I leave for tour tomorrow and have no money at all as I am way overextended. I had to get a real band for this one, and they wanted the money in advance, as well as all the merch for arena shows, which cost a $14,000 deposit. So that's $120K up front. So he was overextended, basically. But hats off to the band for saying, you know what, Corey, I'll do it, but give me the money up front. Collectively, we've all agreed.
What about that cell phone? I had to get a real band for this one.
That is such an indictment over all past performances where apparently it wasn't a real band. It was just people playing. It was like the Showbiz Pizza Band, just playing fake instruments while music played.
Ben, I haven't seen it yet, but that picture of Corey Feldman looks like the guy in The Disaster Artist, right?
Yes, totally. He's got the hair dyed, and he was his guitar solos were going viral, and people were like, people were split on it. Some people were like, "Oh my God, I had no idea he could really shred," and then people who understand anything about guitars were like, man, that's terrible. Like, that sounds awful. Like, even if that is him doing it, it's not good. But my main takeaway from Corey Feldman's guitar solos was the crazy facial expressions he was making, like that.
Yeah, and plus he's also wearing a tile from a bad sushi restaurant for the jacket, which is always, man. I'm not trying to be a dick, but everything about Corey Feldman depresses me. Like it just brings me down. It's like, I mean, I want someone to pursue their art no matter what. I think it's great, pursue your art, but for him to have to shell out 120 up front for a real band, I don't know, man, because I don't know where he's able to replace that 120 grand in the entertainment industry. He may have a side business that's thriving, and if that's the case, good news. But if he's at whatever age he's at, he's got to be late 40s or early 50s. If he's pushing everything into the middle for this tour, I don't know, man. That kind of depresses me.
But look at the drummer. Look at how defeated he is. He's like, man, I can't believe this is my life.
Yeah, and he looks like a man raccoon. What's going on with him?
God.
Well, he's the comeback king. I know that about Corey Feldman, at least.
Don't make a joke like that. Steve, we need you to go away now. The news is over.
Okay.
Nope.
I think he was about to say, I've got more news.
Doesn't matter. He needs to get to it faster, despite how badly we slow him down.
Yeah.
He's gotta be in a position to nail every news story that he's got on deck and prioritize them and all that stuff.
He has got to be the greatest news person in the world, man. I can't believe we got him.
He's solid. Okay, I'm looking at the clock. If you don't mind, what I would like to do, and this is really just for me, you and Jason, I want to do the declutter thing because of thumbnail action, and I also want to do Cowboys. So are you cool getting into the decluttering topic right now? Because I think it's a really good topic. And we'll have Jason. This all started because Ben saw this book. He's going to throw the picture of it up right there. Nobody wants your shit, the art of decluttering before you die. Now, this resonates with me, but I know it really resonates with you, so I want to hear your thoughts on this.
So it's interesting the way that things we go through in our youth fashion the way in which we operate as adults. And a perfect example of that for me, and I think it's similar for you, is we both worked for a fellow student named Bron Doyle. Now, Bron Doyle had a lawn mowing business. He was always entrepreneurial, and now he owns a golf cart business in, what is that called?
Port Aransas, right?
And he owns a golf cart business in Port Aransas, but he's always been this entrepreneur. And so he was like employing like 30 of his friends in high school or whatever on these lawn mowing crews throughout Richardson, Texas. And so he's always had that entrepreneurial spirit. But because we mowed so many lawns, I don't ever want to mow one again, ever.
With hangovers, by the way.
Yeah. And so as an adult, I'm like, I've never purchased a lawnmower, a weed eater, an edger, any of that. I've always paid for lawn service because of that. I don't know if it's traumatic or I was just like, this sucks. I don't want any part of it. I'm like, if I buy a lawnmower, then that's stupid for me to pay for it. So I'm never going to buy a lawnmower. And so for me and my family, cleaning the garage was very much one of my dad's things where he's like, all hands on deck, drop what you're doing, get your ass in the garage. And me and my two brothers would have to clean the shit out of that garage. And there's all this sweeping and all this shit that happened. And it was always just took so long and it was laborious and I hated it. And so as an adult, I have truly neglected my garage. Like I saw Dan and Jake the other day. They were at one of those garage flooring places.
Yeah, there's one in Richardson. I forgot the name of it.
And I'm like, I want to do that. I would love to have like a badass garage floor, be organized, like have my garage be a place that I don't just want to get out of immediately.
Right.
But my garage is a junkyard. There is straight shit in there. And now having lost both of my parents now, and I don't mean to bring everyone down, but
oh God, I'm so depressed.
I've seen the end of the road and what it looks like. And what it looks like is 100 trash bags on the curb.
Yep.
Okay. And so my life, my wife's life, our lives are still so cluttered. Like there's some shit we don't know how to get rid of. Like our old computers, they're just sitting on a shelf in our garage.
Yeah.
And there's so much Christmas shit, Halloween shit, just junk, toys that my kids played with at some point over the last 18 years that they don't even think about touching now. and there's like a spider web museum, and there's just all this shit and trash and clutter everywhere. And when I tell my wife, hey, let's make this our project this weekend, let's go do that, she's like, she's very frugal, so she's like, well, let's have a garage sale. And I'm like, she'll sell our shit for like $2.
It's not
like,
worth it.
Why? It is not worth it. So in our situation now, we have a small garage and a bigger garage.
Yep.
And they both are shit shows. And so I want to get rid of all of this clutter because I know how this movie ends.
Yeah, I'm with you on this. I'm real lucky that both of my parents are still alive and they're in their 80s, but they have very different mentalities on what you're talking about. My dad has spent the last 8 or 9 years of his life just getting rid of shit because he's like, I don't want you guys dealing with this. And that's also kind of my dad's personality. He's like, I don't want to be a problem to anybody, but I think maybe deep down inside he's like, wait, you don't want my shit? But I have like a picture, a giant framed picture of the St. Andrews golf course. It's a sketch of it that's framed that my dad used to have in his office. And it's been sitting in my garage for about 8 years now, leaning up against the wall. I don't want it. But there's this sentimental value that I have in my Maverick, Texas heart right here for it because I know that at one point my dad cared about it. And it's like, that's the mentality that clutters your life, is the inability to let go of something that you very much don't need because you've attached some sentimental value to it. And that's a great example of that. I think my dad, I could get rid of that. He would never know. And then if he found out, he wouldn't give a crap. But I walk by it and look at it and go, yep, there's that thing. Do you guys have the deal where once a month or twice a month, they come and they pick up bulk trash off your curb? Us taking advantage of that has been huge. But some stuff, you do go, okay, should I take this to Goodwill? Or we're never going to do a garage sale. I respect Kat for having the wherewithal to actually want to attempt all of that. But you talk about something that happened earlier in life. This was about 15 years ago for me. I was still DJing in bars and things, and my wife was like, "This has got to stop." This was actually probably more like 18 years ago because it's probably 20 years ago. It's before we had kids. She's like, there's no reason for you to be out at 3 a.m. on a Thursday and then get up and go to Wade Electric at 6:30. And right at that time, the technology had changed. And so there was this new thing that DJs were using called Serato. And now if you hire a DJ, he's got a laptop. So imagine back then I have 3,000 hip hop and, dance records, and thinking that I would go in there and take the time to convert every one of those to a digital file in real time. Think about how long that would take.
That's
that was the moment where I know. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, I'm going to say goodbye to DJing and I'm going to sell off all my hip hop and dance records. And it was about 3,000 of them. And I pared my vinyl collection, which I'm looking at over here. I pared it down to about 3,200 records, jazz, R&B, and rock, and just a very, very few hip hop records. Ben, I have regretted that so much. I can't tell you now how many times I'm like, God, I wish I still had that record. And that's that sentimental value to it, because I know that there's no way in F anybody else in my family is going to want to deal with me if I have 6,500 records. It's just this selfish thing that's cluttering up my mind and cluttering up my office. And we've just got to be willing to let go of things as technology has allowed us to make our lives smaller. And I attach value to things that I shouldn't, and it causes me problems later.
Yeah, I think for me, there's things I've kept for nostalgic reasons that are pointless because no one cares, no one wants it.
Right.
I think my wife retains or thinks certain things retain value and thinks, hey, I think, my wife will meet an axe murderer at midnight, like in a prison yard, to sell them a $3 trinket. Like, I don't understand, like, what. She's just wired that way, and I respect it, and thank God she is, because if we were both wired like me, we'd be broke. But I do wonder about this as you get older. I'm like, and I hate that I always remember this Kanye West lyric, but the things we own end up owning us, that whole notion.
Yeah.
And I remember when I was talking to a financial advisor, and it was right before I want to say it was before I bought my house, the one that was over by J.J. Pierce.
Okay.
And so that was probably, because that was when Max was born. So that was, 18 years ago. And I was talking to this financial advisor somebody had connected me to, and I didn't have enough money to have a financial advisor, but it seemed like a mature thing to do. And he was like, hey, listen, before you buy that house, I hope you're not buying a big house. And I was like, hey, Dick, get out of my business. We want to fucking have a nice house. Shut up.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, I'm saying, just, don't overextend yourself. I'm like, dude, I make good money. I'm in advertising sales. It's going great. I'm never going to make less money than this. Shut up. And I just remember him saying, no, I didn't really say that, but he's like, no, just go with the smallest house you can get by on. Just make sure it's the smallest payment. And I think about that a lot. And especially as kids are leaving the house and I want to downsize, I think the people who buy the least amount of shit, have the least amount of debt, the least amount of responsibilities on their monthly nut so they don't have to work their asses off just to survive and not go bankrupt or lose their shit, they've got this figured out. And so at one point, I would love to be in a small house that doesn't break my back to pay the mortgage, in a place with a really cool weather environment that I enjoy being in without having to work or without having to work hard, and just enjoy life at that moment, because we chase and work our ass off and we're so busy. And then we look up and we're like, holy shit, we need to, we're 100 years old. We're Jimmy Carter at a flyover. I'm like, what was it all for? I don't know. At some point, I want to get rid of all this shit and be in a much smaller house. I think that's the point of what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And I think about downsizing, but also now I'm at my daughter's 19 and I look at the state of the world and I'm begging her to live with me because I don't make her pay rent and I pay for her car. And I'm like, please live here forever. Like, there's really nothing we don't let you do except throw ragers. And I don't think she's the kind that wants to throw a rager. I'm like, you've saved a bunch of money. If you do this for like 2 or 3 more years, you'll be sitting on a lot of money. But I get it, man. No one wants to live with their parents. And so I joke forever about the second my kids graduate from high school, I'm kicking them out the door and downsizing immediately. And now I'm like, no, live here forever. It's great.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think there are certain cultures in the world where that's the way it is. Like the families stay together, they live together. I love that. And I know there's some friends of mine that the Standard Insurance folks, you've seen their commercials, Standard Insurance. Not an advertiser, I'm just saying this. Some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And you see their commercials on TV all the time. But they're very family centric, and they did this thing that I would love to do. They bought this land. And I don't know if they still have it, but they built it out to where there's, it's like big acreage for each house, but they kind of made a community.
Yeah. And
it's their family, and they all live in houses kind of close to each other, and they're able to spend this time together. And that sounds amazing, but I like, my mother-in-law was so awesome, rest in peace. I would have gladly let her live here. Now, my mom, maybe not, but my mother-in-law, yes. And I'm in no hurry to kick my kids out either, so maybe that is a problem. I'm trying to downsize my house but get them to stick around forever. But I've always respected cultures like that stick together, families that are like, dude, we're ride or die. This is our family. Let's stay close. Let's stay together. I dig that a lot.
Yeah, your friends are like the righteous gemstones without all the dysfunction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, anyways, you know my mom. So my mom lives in a pretty good sized house out in Rockwall. It's on a big piece of land that backs up to water, and her house is bigger than mine, and it's got about, 5 antique stores worth of stuff in it. And I love you, Gator, more than anything in the world. You're the sweetest person, but I'm sorry, when you're no longer on this planet, I'm just going to hire someone to come get all that stuff. I ain't going through it.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, maybe before we get out of here, is there anything else you want to touch on that particular topic?
No, I appreciate any advice anybody has. Put it in the comments. I love seeing the comments. We love seeing y'all interact with us.
Look at that at the bottom, Ben, by Aaron D. Old people love to hoard. There it is. There's certain things that happen to all old people as they get older. There's certain things that are inevitable. They are going to be this way. They're going to not trust certain institutions as they get older. They're not going to trust young people, and they're going to hoard. Why is that? What is that instinct? Is that some sort of emotional attachment to the past? I don't know what that is.
I think there is mental health tied to it.
Yeah, probably.
Right. And like you said, placing value on things, not being willing to let go, the pain of letting go. And there was a time where, I lived right down the street, following that same model of my friends. We weren't rich enough to buy land and build cul-de-sacs for our family and stuff like that. But we lived very close to when my dad died. We had my mom move in down the street. She bought a house that was very near us. And the idea was, she's a widow now. Let's keep her close and stay closer. And then we did that again by having her move out to Light Farms. But there was a point along the way where she kept saying, hey, let's meet at your house. My house is a mess. Let's meet at your house. My house is dirty. I don't want you guys to see my house. Typical stuff.
Right.
But you got so busy with 3 kids that we realized, we haven't been over to her house in like a year. She's always come to our house. And then it was like, I don't think I've been there in 2 years, even though she lives right down the street. She always just comes and meets us. And she was very smooth about that. And so at this point, we were going to have her move from her. When we moved to Light Farms, we were going to have her come move to Light Farms. And she wouldn't let us get in her house to help her with it. And I had a friend of mine go over there to look at, doing some remodeling to help her sell it. And he was like, hey, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but your mom is a hoarder. And I was like, how dare you call my mother a whore? He said, no, hoarder.
Only I can do that.
Hoarder. And I was like, oh, shit, what? Really? Like, how bad is it on a scale through 1 through 10? He goes, it's a 10. Like, oh, shit. And so, she then, we hired them to help throw away all this shit that she was keeping. And then she moved out here to Light Farms and she had health issues. And we realized it was happening again. And so, at the very end, literally, I think we had 40 trash bags out at the curb. And this is after she went from one house to the other. And I think, another problem is for people as they get older, and if they're just watching those shopping channels and all that shit, they end up adding things they don't need. They keep, this would be great. So-and-so would like this. I'll buy this. And then it just, we found boxes of things that had never been opened that were brand new that were just in the garage. And so that had a profound impact on me. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like that for my kids. And I think it's time to declutter our shit.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Okay, let's we got to wrap this up, but I do want to talk some Cowboys right quick if you're down with this.
Yeah.
We'll make
Ben
it
and
brief.
Skin, talk your sports shit.
Okay, thank you. Done. It's been requested. I was reading this morning about, KT comes to our radio station every day. If you don't know, Ben and I are on 97.1 The Eagle from 3 to 6 with our friends KT and Christina. And would you say like 60% of the time KT shows up in a full Davante Adams Green Bay Packer uniform with cleats and pads and everything?
It's all sometimes he does wear a full Packers hat and shirt and football pants and cleats. Yeah. And he is a Packers enthusiast. And it's fun to talk Cowboys with him because he doesn't have the emotional connection that we do.
Right.
And so he just kind of looks at it practically. And so I'm so used to him being a even-keeled football man. Until yesterday, and we're talking about Davante Adams, the pom-poms came out in a way in which I don't know that I've ever experienced. He is a huge Davante Adams fan to the point where he's irrational about him. I think he's that big of a fanboy.
Yeah, and I agree. And so the Davante Adams conversation came up and the Tyreek Hill conversation came up. And, there's been some talk about Amari Cooper. But there's this idea that maybe the past is not allowed that to happen. In reading about, you and I think we agree they can't fix the defense this year enough to be a good defense. Are we on the same page there?
Absolutely. There's no, it just you need personnel, you need scheme, you need overhaul.
Okay. Looking at what's out there for Davante Adams, I'm just reading an Athletic article and reading what the financial commitment is for Davante Adams. So the Athletic suggests a 3rd-round pick next year and Jalen Brooks for Adams. Okay. Now, keep in mind, Davante Adams has no financial guarantee beyond the season. You can walk away from him. Okay. So as you have to go sign Micah, for example, that's not going to hurt that. And I'm like, I don't know if that's acceptable, but I then went and looked up the Amari Cooper contract. Dude, I would do this. I would give up if they would accept it, I would give up that 3rd-round pick and Brooks for Adams if they would accept it. And then I would turn right around and I would add Amari Cooper too. He's got neither one of those guys are owed any money after this year. You could probably get Cooper for a 5th. Now you'd probably need it to be a 5th next year, or maybe add a 5th and a 6th next year, whatever. But if you're going to be good this year, you're going to have to do it on offense. And Dak has played with Cooper before. If you added both of those receivers before you get to the break, they've got 2 more games, Steelers Sunday. And then, by the way, the Steelers are not that good. They can win that Steelers game. It's the Lions that are going to kill them. But if you could add both of those players, I think we could have a really fun-ass year. And I don't think there's any dominant teams. The closest thing to a dominant team in the NFC is the Lions.
I think the Vikings, I think Washington, I think the Packers, the Lions, Seattle, the Saints, and the Eagles are all better than the Cowboys. I think the AFC is better than the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't see this road going anywhere. And I was looking at these power rankings today and all these different sites, and because I focus mostly on the Cowboys and reading about other teams, everybody's got their issues, but the Cowboys' issues are so systemic, I don't think they can overcome them. And they have a coach in the last year of his deal. I mean, yesterday during practice, Jerry landed a helicopter on the field.
Let's take a look at that. Jason, would you mind showing us footage of what happened at practice yesterday? I think this is from our buddy Clarence Hill's Twitter feed. So you can get you can get Twitter footage of Clarence Hill from All City and just get a look at what happened out at the Star yesterday.
I mean, the whole idea that you have to interrupt practice by landing your helicopter on the field, and so guys got to stop doing what they're doing so I can land this helicopter here, is emblematic of everything that's wrong with the Cowboys. And the team is worth $10 billion. These guys are rich beyond means. They fly helicopters instead of driving cars, but they say they're broke and they don't have the money. They don't have the payroll. They don't have the cap space to do this and this and this. And it's just like, man, if they do it, I like your plan. Go get Davante Adams. Go get Amari Cooper. It would be fun as shit to talk about this team. It'd be fun to watch the games. But is it the right thing moving forward when really the best thing that can happen is you go get a high draft pick? It would be a miserable season, so I don't really want that. But if you could fast forward and tank and get a top 5 pick and a top 5 pick in every round, go get a new coach. I like the idea of Belichick because it's kind of a true football man. Now, he may be a dinosaur, but it's like the idea that, okay, maybe he can corral this chaos. I don't know, man. I don't see this season being special for the Cowboys, even if they go add 2 receivers.
To me, if they get to the conference championship game, it's success. And I also like those teams that you named. I mean, I agree the Lions are way better. I don't think the Eagles are definitively better than the Cowboys. I've watched them play like a game and a half, and they suck. I don't think the Seahawks are definitively better. I think you can make some arguments, but my whole point is that there's just a glut. It's just a glut of teams. Now, there's a chance the Niners really get their act together and show their form, and there's a sizable gap there. But I just think the nature of football is just stay in the mix. And if you stay in the mix and you're fortunate enough to have some health, you can get there. But yeah, dude, they're flawed. They have a ton of problems. And honestly, I don't even know if it makes sense to keep Micah moving forward. Maybe you can trade him this offseason, and that can be a part of a defensive overhaul that has more bodies as compared to like one or two bodies.
I only think it's worth it to mortgage your future and go for it if it's a calculated risk and you feel like you got a good shot. Mm-hmm. That's just where we differ. I don't think they have a good shot, and I think the problems are so massive. Like their defense has been, before the Giants gave them the gift of being the Giants, one of the most disgusting defenses in the league. Anyone could run on them, and they could run outside. And so now you take that defense, and you're like, okay, did they fix it, or did the Giants just pull a Giants? And you take your two best players off that defense, and D-Law is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Micah with a high ankle sprain. I know he's Superman, but I feel like he's probably going to be out for 3 weeks at least, maybe 5. What is this defense without its two best players? And God forbid you have other injuries as well. And on top of that, even though Dak has more time in the pocket now than he's had in a long time, like their Cowboys in pass protection are near the top of the league in buying time for Dak, but the Cowboys' separation from their receivers is among the worst in the league, even for CD. And so I don't know, maybe it is their receivers suck, and so you add these other receivers, and suddenly guys are getting open, and the offense is thriving at that point, but you still don't have a running game, so your play action is not going to work. I mean, if you were willing to say, hey, we're going to getting Davante Adams, we're getting Amari Cooper, we have 3 badass receivers, pretty good tight end, we're just going to throw like crazy, that would be a ton of fun. But I don't know that they're good enough to mortgage their future to go for that in any way at all. So I would love to see it, but I don't think I would personally do it.
Well, we'll probably talk a little more Cowboys later in the day today. You, of course, can hear us every Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 on 97.1 The Eagle. As Ben mentioned, we'll have some cool Mav news coming up here in the coming weeks. And, tell them about the Complete Fun package, Ben.
Yeah, this is amazing. We're trying to do this cool thing to stay in touch with you guys. Like the social media algorithms make it tough for you to see our posts, long story short. So we want your email address. We want to be able to send you emails and say, hey, we're about to do a stream, or hey, we did a stream this week. Here's a link to it. Just let you know everything that's going on with us. We'll have merch. We'll have special content for you. It's kind of like a Ben and Skin listener loyalty program. And we're calling it the Complete Fun Package.
It's all part of the Complete Fun Package we're throwing out here.
Because that's what Dirk said when there was a giant Zeke head and a hole in it, and people were shooting hot dogs into it at Rough Rider Field at the Hero Celebrity Baseball game. And so what we want to do is have you guys sign up for this. And if you guys would put the link, if you guys, so we'll go back and put the link here. You'll see it on our social media account. Somebody pop it in the comments. But basically, the Complete Fun Package is this link to this page where it says, hey, thank you for supporting us. What's your email address? Answer 3 or 4 questions about us. And once you do that, you are officially signed up for the Complete Fun Package. And we're going to be doing cool shit like giveaways, tickets to concerts and games. We're going to be giving away a giant big screen TV. We're going to give away a laptop, and we're going to give away meet and greets. We gave away a meet and greet in April with Luka. And so if you haven't seen that, that's really, so imagine meeting Luka. Imagine just winning a free TV. Imagine getting a laptop or getting tickets to a game or a concert just by giving us your email address. So there it is. Okay, so we've posted it up. The Complete Fun Package link is in the comments. Click that, sign up for that, and just by doing that, when we start giving away this stuff, you will be entered to win, and it's free.
And it is free. All right, that's going to do it for us today on the Super Soaker. We'll see you at 3 o'clock today. And let's leave you with these words that Preston Furlow reminded us of. If you ever do something bad or think about doing something bad, just tell somebody or don't do it. Thank you, everyone. I hope you were properly soaked.
This has been another Iron Balls production.